Wednesday's Mariners game was filled with returns, debuts, and it was an easy one to lose as George Kirby faced off against Trevor Williams, and we experienced our hottest game, at least in Seattle, so far. Welcome to the Dom Skiing Channel, your one-stop shop for the Mariners storylines on Seattle's minds. And the Mariners lost 9-0 to the Nationals in this one. I am still sweating. I was at the game. By the time I sat in my seat, my navy blue Mariners hat and my jersey were absolutely soaked. I had to take off my undershirt and go shirtless under the jersey. For those of you ballpark goers, it's pretty hot when you got to do that. So that's where we got to today. And the ball absolutely flew, as you would expect in such a hot game. James Wood hits his second home run of the series, one of my favorite non-Mariners. Just going to go ahead and give him credit right off the bat. Bat flipped, put it off of the scoreboard above the right field seats. Absolutely disgusting. Absolute menace of a baseball player. Should start for the National League in the All-Star game. But getting on to the Mariners in this one, the good side, you had George Kirby making his second start of 2025, and he got through it healthy. You had Jackson Kowar coming back from Tommy John surgery, hasn't pitched in nearly 2 seasons. In 2 seasons, I think nearly 3 almost. He ends up throwing 16 pitches, getting his first strikeout in nearly 2 years, or nearly 3 years, allowing just 1 hit as he goes a clean inning. Then Blas Castano ends up getting thrown out for the final 3 innings just to eat him up, and that's his MLB debut. 3 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks to 1 strikeout, and 1 homer for Blas Castano. All that's really to look at with these guys is, get them a feel for things. Obviously, once the game's out of hand, after Kirby's line, you just want to get those guys a little bit of experience. You won't do anything too major in terms of analysis on their first game, but Kowar really looked the part. He kept guys off balance. The strikeout was pretty nasty. And for Kowar, we got 1 swing and miss on 16 pitches. Castano, actually, interesting enough, and this could be due to the late game where the Nationals were just kind of pressing for stats, pad their stats at the end. Obviously, don't need to be as productive when you're 9 up on offense. But Blas Castano ends up getting, he only gets 1 whiff on 50 pitches, sorry. And no quality of contact, actually didn't. Actually, there should be. I don't know. My baseball savant's looking weird tonight. All right, 91.4 average exit velocity for Blas Castano. And sorry, I'm absolutely sweating. It is hot here in Seattle tonight. Jackson Kowar gets 1 whiff on 16 pitches. Kirby, the thing about Kirby is that on the surface, he had a bad start. Everybody's like, oh, great, Kirby's not doing so well. The ERA of 11.42 after just 2 starts, only goes 5 innings, allows 6 earned runs, 7 hits, 2 walks, gets the 4 strikeouts, but basically most of the damage comes on 3 home runs. And if you take those off, line's not quite as bad. Does get hard hit a total of 8 times in this one. And really the most uncharacteristic thing, and when I knew that this start was going poorly, was when he walked his second batter. After having just, he struck 2 guys out, I believe, or in the first inning. Then he ended up, after that first inning, he went like a period of 3 innings with 1 strikeout and 2 walks, which after that rough second frame where the Nationals hit the back-to-back homers, I understand why you're going to be cautious and hesitant to attack hitters. But with Kirby, when he's hesitant to attack hitters, he can locate so well. Plus, he's really an even-keel guy. He's known for listening to dubstep, listening to that EDM music while he hits a 9-pocket net rather than pitching to a traditional, catcher, someone with a glove. And that's really, he kind of has his own eccentric way of focusing in. But when you watch him on the mound, he's kind of an ultimate competitor type. He really doesn't say a lot or maybe show the most emotion. But, in a weird way, similar to Logan, whereas Logan is definitely more of a he's got really preaches his Christianity and his faith. Kirby is kind of a dubstep eccentric guy, and with that doesn't necessarily mean anything about the earned runs. This isn't going to explain away the earned runs, but you look at Kirby, he's an ultimate competitor type who is very vibes focused. And when something gets out of whack, it really doesn't happen that often for him. I'd say 95% of the George Kirby starts I've ever watched have been, okay, this guy's in control. I know, he knows what he's doing. And that other 5%, he looks kind of frustrated, pressing. I think you see that tonight, for a vibes-based guy, when the vibes are kind of not going as well, what can he do to get out of it? And he did, under the hood, have a pretty good start. On 78 pitches, he got 10 swinging strikes. So Kirby, in spite of such a poor overall line and such a poor result, actually pitched pretty well if you are looking at what he did from a baseball standpoint. 5 swinging strikes on 27 four-seam fastballs for a 28% whiff rate. 28% whiff rate on 18 swings. Won't overload you guys too much with the numbers, but then the knuckle curve, you get 3 swinging strikes on 16 of them, 3 whiffs on just 9 pitches, or on 9 swings, 33% whiff rate. That's elite. So the four seam and the knuckle curve, definitely the ones he favored the most in this. 35% four seam, 21% knuckle curve. He used the sinker, he favored that splitter and that slider a little more in that first start. Definitely the slider. But today didn't really have that one. It got crushed too. What was upsetting was that the first homer was a middle slider miss, 87, which Luis Garcia just smashes into the power alley in right center. Then you had the very next batter. It was Josh Bell, and it was an outside. Fastball. So that was kind of just, or actually might have been, it was an outside fastball. I think it was a sinker, actually. I'm going to go look at that. But with Kirby, I felt like he was really kind of getting into it with hitters in a way where I've always felt like he's in control. Whereas I felt like he was truly trying to face off against hitters and face off against what their strengths and weaknesses were. Whereas I'd rather see him just hit his spots so cleanly that you can almost minimize the strengths and weaknesses of the hitter and be quite literally one of the most in control pitchers of the at-bat in the game. And going back to that second inning, the back-to-back homers, Josh Bell, it was a four-seamer, 95.4, but it was on kind of middle outside. I guess StatCast now shows that it was a little, more like up and outside, but kind of, right above the waist. And Bell just gets to it, puts an Apotaco out into the Nationals bullpen. And Josh Bell's a guy who was hitting 151 at the time of this. So for him to finally hit a homer, he ends up hitting, I think, a double the next at bat as well. It's just not so surprising. And actually, my bad, Josh Bell finished a triple shy of the cycle tonight. He went 3 for 5 with the homer, the double, and also it was a single in his second at bat. So, but I think that is just a case of a hitter that was meant to be hot the whole time, taking advantage of somebody who maybe just hasn't been comfortable for the whole year. So I didn't see that as an alarming matchup, just more one that it's kind of like a welcome back moment for Kirby. So he's had a rough welcome back so far, but the swinging strikes are there. The quality of contact takes way too long to normalize, so the fact that when you actually look at these at-bats, watch the game, and my new rule when I go to the games is that I try to pull out as little as StatCast as possible, if any at all, and just watch the game with my own 2 eyes, then go look at the numbers later. When you watch this game, you can kind of just see Kirby's pressing he gets 2 strikeouts in the first inning, great. and then he just didn't get strikeouts for the rest of the start for the most part. Kind of similar to how Logan Evans struck out both Woods and I forget another guy in the top of the first inning yesterday, then barely got any strikeouts the rest of the game. Only 4 strikeouts on eight innings in that game for him. Then Trevor Williams, the fact that Trevor Williams, #NeverTrevor, got a quality start against the Seattle Mariners, I mean, that's got to disappoint. There's really no other way to say it. 5 swinging strikes on 77 pitches. That 89.1% average exit velocity for Trevor Williams is more of a reflection of the fact that we just didn't quite square the ball up. There was a lot of warning track power. Hence, our 280 expected batting average, usually good enough to win you a game. But instead, we only come out with 5 hits, no runs. Nationals, on the other hand, absolutely go off offensively. And again, the Nationals team, I'm higher on than most people. Not just James Wood, who I'm much higher on than consensus. But Abrams, I think he's a top 10 shortstop in the league for sure. No doubt. Could push for top 5 this season. Ruiz is a kind of a mid-catcher, mid-table catcher, but obviously he threw Masterboni out. And then he at the plate, is a sure bet for high 200s batting average. He's a consistent hitter. Nate Lowe has had a pretty good year, even though he's hitting 220. That I've heard a few rumblings around the ballpark of people saying, "Oh yeah, we could trade for Nate Lowe." And first base is definitely the number 1 position on our wish list at the deadline. However, Nate Lowe being the option is not something that I'd be too fond of. He's a guy who is. He has 246 expected batting average. He's underperforming at 220. Got a little bit of a higher xWOBA than his actual WOBA too, 316 xWOBA to 300. So he's underperforming. I just still don't see in this profile, there's almost nothing that is red on his Baseball Savant page, just if we're looking at the numbers. And Nate Lowe, when you watch him in person, he's not really an imposing guy. And I asked the question, is he a top 15 first baseman in the MLB? I don't think this is going to be a controversial comment question, but comment question of the day, is Nate Lowe a top 15 first baseman in MLB? And really, where would you rank Nate Lowe, out of all the first basemen in the MLB, all 30 starters, let's say? Because this is not the type of guy I'd want. I would want, for sure, a top 15 guy, a Spencer Torkelson at the very least, a Ben Rice. Obviously, those are contending teams, but you get the gist of kind of that spot in the rankings. So the Nationals lineup, and then Robert Hassel also ends up getting his first career home run, I believe. Yeah, first career home run, and he had 3 hits in this one. Good for his 3rd, 4th, and 5th hits in the MLB. So welcome to the big leagues, kid. He's playing well. Yet another piece from the Juan Soto trade, who's finally making his debut, the number 11 prospect in the Nationals pipeline. And he's had a pretty good first few games. He's squared up some balls. The stats are going to take a long time to normalize, and he does not seem to be a StatCast type of, StatCast darling type of player. 6'1", 186, definitely a faster guy, but we're going to need to see that base running before we really see his value calculated, because the hitting stats just won't be there as a rookie unless he gets super hot, and the fielding will take a lot of time to normalize as well. Glad we get to cover a lot of these Nationals players. This is one of the more interesting teams in the National League, I believe, that nobody is really talking too much about. Jose Tena's also impressed me. He went 2 for 4, had a double, and he does, 261 XBA, 260 batting average. So he's kind of right in line with the stats, but he's a guy who I just see some moxie in him. The body language is really good. He's hustling out to third base and in from third base. He's hustling. He really diving headfirst into second. He's a guy who, I don't say a whole lot that I love the body language of a player, but I do love the body language of Jose Tena. He's letting C.J. Abrams be the captain over there on that side of the infield. I see him communicating all the time. And obviously these are really little minor things, but just giving credit to the Nationals. They were put together. We blow them out 9-1 the first game of the series. They blow us out 9-0 the next game. That's baseball. So really to recap tonight, not too worried about Kirby. He's got the swinging strikes. The quality of contact is going to take some time to normalize, and this was the hottest game ever. At least it felt like it. Definitely the hottest in Seattle this season. Kowar, great little debut, and really good to see him make his return from Tommy John. Blas Castano, MLB debut. Welcome to the big leagues, kid. Obviously, Kowar looking good. You'll take the positives, but Castano getting knocked around a little bit. He was kind of left out to dry. Then Trevor Williams getting a quality start against us. That's extremely annoying, especially when you look at the fact that he threw 55% four-seam fastballs that were averaging 87.8 miles an hour. And if we can't square that up, it reflects a lot more. I mean, I would say we did square it up. We just didn't have success. We put a lot of balls to the warning track, a lot of balls in the outfield, and you can't win them all. I'm not going to read too deep into anybody's offensive struggles on our team tonight. Other than that, tomorrow is a huge game. We got Mackenzie Gore, who's one of the top 20 to 30 starters in the MLB right now for sure. Mackenzie Gore, looking at what he's doing, pretty awesome this year. So the breaking balls for him, 93rd percentile. The fastball run value only 60th percentile, and the off-speed run value only 11th. But breaking balls are definitely our kryptonite, and so the breaking ball kryptonite could continue tomorrow with Mackenzie Gore. He's a 49% four-seam guy with 23% curve, 13% slider, 9% change, 5% cutter. At this point, I mean, you just got to square up those four seams. You don't have a lot of success against off speeds and breaking pitches, I think, but this is where we really start to get tricky because you saw some chaos ball last night. I don't know, as teams start to game plan harder and harder against us, and start to throw us more breaking balls and off speeds. You can go kind of one of two directions. You can try to get better at hitting them, just go a little less heavy waiting for the fastball, and kind of be a little more conservative, willing to touch those breaking balls, put them in play. Another, and even, occasionally that's going to mean chasing them slightly outside of the zone. When you're in the box, you can't tell somebody, oh, just don't chase borderline pitches, right? You have to, this is a big gray area. This is not black and white hitting, much as art as it is a science. And we've talked plenty about, the different philosophies of Brant Brown last year and Edgar and Dan this year. But looking at Mackenzie Gore, I expect him to really feature that curve and that slider, maybe up that change in that cutter usage. Because why would you throw a four-seam against the Mariners? I know Trevor Williams did it tonight, but another thing, one more thing I want to mention on tonight's game is that the Nationals had about 4 hitters beat the shift in a row in the 4th inning. They just kept putting them down the line and beating the shift. That's just not something you see very often. I don't know if it was because Kirby is so good at control. They could, maybe he was tipping pitches and they knew it was coming, so they were able to square it up a little bit better. Not sure, but definitely, absolutely killed the shift tonight, Nationals. So, tip of the cap to you. Honestly, I feel like the Mariners have not been blown out and really handily scraped many times this year. And I would give it to the Nationals because, this is one of those 162 where they definitely got the better of us. But with, we've seen these hitters now for 2 days. Winning this series is going to come down to what can we do against Mackenzie Gore? Can we get him out of there? Can we at least get that pitch count up? Can we square up the breaking balls, or can we sit and wait for the fastballs? And that's what we're going to be breaking down tomorrow on the Dom Skeen channel. I will see you guys after tomorrow night's game for the recap. And then let me know with your comment question of the day. Where does Nate Lowe rank among MLB starting first basemen out of 30? With that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Go M's.